Lorenzo Tejada's character is something that in my opinion could be explored a little more in Season 2, but could we see him being released from prison and enter the thick of the action in Power Book 2 as we move into Season 2? I'm talking all things Lorenzo Tejada, what we know and what we could expect from his character. So welcome back to MovieBot. Let's talk about Power Book 2, Ghost, Lorenzo Tejada.
Don't you ever put your hands on my wife again.
So just a clip to show Lorenzo's brutality, and Lorenzo means business. And when I say business, regardless of Kane being family, he treats family just like he treats his business. But I'm going to come to all things Lorenzo Tejada in this video, from what we know so far about his past, his relationship with Monet and his kids, and everything else. But first, if you're new to the channel, then remember to smash the subscribe button if you want to see everything Power Universe related. But let's start with a topic that I've spoken about previously, because Courtney Kemp has categorically cleared this one up. Despite the confusing dialogue between Monet and Lorenzo, with Monet telling Lorenzo that he's mine, and Lorenzo telling Kane never to put his hands on his wife again, and just the way they treat Kane differently to Drew and Diana, I thought it could be a possibility that Kane wasn't Lorenzo's son, but Courtney Kemp did confirm in a last Instagram live Q&A that Kane is definitely Lorenzo's, so I think we could put that one to bed. But I still think there's going to be quite a few of you who believe Kane is Kanan's son or just not Lorenzo's son, but he is definitely Lorenzo and Monet's son. Now the main reason being is because it's another point which Courtney Kemp touched on, and I actually touched on this very early on in my videos after the very first episode. And if you rewind it back to the very first episode when Tariq found out about Lorenzo, at the end of the episode he googled Lorenzo Tejada to find out information about him and his family. And what happens when you google something? It brings up a list of things that are linked and connected to that person, and it came up with Bust New York Reporter, a gang raid, and Lorenzo Tejada Jr. Now I questioned who was Lorenzo Tejada Jr. in my video months ago, because that was the first time we'd seen this name or heard of this name, but Courtney Kemp confirmed that who Lorenzo Tejada Jr. was, and it's actually Kane. His name is Lorenzo Tejada Jr., but his name Kane comes from his nickname Hurricane, because he was always running around in his house as a little kid, and this is something we're going to learn about in Season 2 as we progress into the show, when they dive deep into a bit more of the Tejada backstory, because I do think they're not going to show us flashbacks as such, because Power have never kind of shown us flashbacks of events that have never happened, but I do think we'll hear conversation between the Tejada family to give us more of an insight into who they are, a bit more of Monet's background and who she is, because she's from Brooklyn. There's not much we know about her past, and the same goes for Lorenzo. Now Lorenzo's background is interesting because Courtney Kemp said although Monet doesn't know who Ghost is coming from Brooklyn, Lorenzo on the other hand, as he starts to learn more about Tariq, his past, and he may connect a few dots and put the pieces of the puzzle together, so it doesn't necessarily mean there's a connection, but he could know of Ghost or definitely heard his name in the streets, come across maybe Kanan at some point. We're really just gonna have to wait and find out what he knows and how much he knows. Now this is why I think we could see Lorenzo play a much bigger role in Season 2 in the terms of he could bring to light what information he knows about Tariq's past, if he knows Ghost, because Monet heard the name when Tommy mentioned it at the end of the season finale at the graveyard, and no doubt she'll go back to Lorenzo with the name Ghost, and let's see what his facial reactions are when he hears the name. Let's see how he reacts when he learns about Tariq killing his own father. Will they treat Tariq any different? Will he have more respect or be more feared? It's going to be interesting to see how Monet and Lorenzo see him now. But let's just talk about Lorenzo himself and what we know about him at this moment in time, now that Season 1 has come to its conclusion. And let's talk about why he's in prison, because he was arrested for a gang-related crime and a murder. When his murder trial started, two key witnesses of the victim's family suddenly went missing, who were last seen meeting a lawyer who coincidentally went missing as well and presumed dead, and they described it as a mysterious death of a lawyer. So Lorenzo and the Tejadas went to great lengths to keep key witnesses away from his trial, including the lawyer, to keep Lorenzo out of prison. But 2 years after the drug raid, it led to the arrest and the conviction of Lorenzo Tejada. He appealed his case, but this was officially denied, even though there was a new witness who emerged claiming to have evidence that would have freed Lorenzo. The judge refused to hear the testimony, so Lorenzo was then convicted of first-degree murder, and 4 others were arrested in the gang-related death, presumably one of them being Uncle Frank, who Kane dispatched of because he was a snitch. So this is the reason for Lorenzo being in prison, and at first I thought he could have taken the fall for Kane's actions or Drew killing someone, because Monet mentioned to Drew in a conversation after Kane tried to kill Tariq, she said to Drew that he did what great leaders do, and that's take the fall, and he ordered Kane to go and deal with the guaps. And I'm going to come to his relationship with Drew, Kane and Diana in just a moment, but in the season finale, Monet did say to Lorenzo that if he didn't get caught up in some bullshit, then she wouldn't need Ramirez. So I don't think Lorenzo is in prison for someone else's actions. I do think he got caught for a murder that he committed, and the conversation between Lorenzo and Monet makes you wonder that Lorenzo knows about Monet sleeping with Ramirez, but he's dead now anyway, so Lorenzo ain't gotta worry about him anymore. But how long is Lorenzo in prison for? Now he's in prison for 25 years, having already served 10 years, which Monet told us in episode 6 in a heated conversation with Kane, just before he knocked her down. Kane said he could get parole on good behavior, which is when he's served half of his sentence, so 2 or so more years. So could we see Lorenzo coming out of prison in season 2? Now personally I would love to see Lorenzo coming out of prison in season 2, but it just wouldn't add up with how many years he's served unless they do a small time jump between season 1 and 2. But with Power Book 2 Ghost being talked about going for 5 or 6 seasons, or even possibly 10 depending on this big shift in season 5, whatever this big shift could be, which I talk about in a bit more detail in this video, which I'll link down below. So I'll link that video down below for those of you who haven't seen that video. But I do think they're planning the long term for Power Book 2 Ghost, so I'm not sure we'll see him being released in season 2, but I do think he'll be out by season 3, that's for sure, and then it's game on, because let's see what he's made of outside those prison walls. And I want to see these relationships with his kids, Kane, Drew, Diana, because with Kane, and in his character description, it says that he's expected to uphold his father's reputation without being empowered to make decisions. And has he done this? Yes and no to a certain extent. Kane is feared, but he also makes a hell of a lot of wrong calls and decisions, which is why Lorenzo sees Drew as a natural person to take over the Tejada business eventually, and I do think him being shot will change him. It will change Monet and it will change Drew. The monster that was unleashed when he was given the beatdown to Guap, he had this massive vein running across his forehead, and fuck, it was at that moment we knew Drew had this monster inside him. And I only think as time goes on, because of him being shot, we'll see this character develop even more and become a lot more wiser, a lot more ruthless, and probably see him get his first kill in season 2 as well. Because we've seen Drew shoot DC Joe to make it look like a robbery gone wrong, but he was dead already. But I do think we'll see him develop, change, and be sucked into a life of the streets more and more, even though he doesn't want to be there. And what about his relationship with Kane? Because we know both Lorenzo and Monet treat family the same way they do the business, and Kane, he really is on thin ice. I do think he'll be given another chance, but he won't be trusted, and he is a ticking time bomb. It's only a matter of time before he does something stupid again, which puts someone that he loves at risk. But let me know what you guys think about everything that I've spoken about, from Lorenzo Tejada's past to his relationships with Monet and Kane. And do you think we could see Lorenzo being released from prison in season 2? I'm not so sure, because I do think they're planning for the long game with Power Book 2 Ghost, potentially running for 6 seasons. So I would rather them take their time, build it up, and really be patient rather than them just rush Lorenzo out of prison just for the sake of it. So let me know your thoughts on everything Lorenzo Tejada, and also guys, if you're new to the channel, remember to smash the subscribe button before you go. Hope you all enjoyed the video, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.